When you got back, something was different. It wasn't that you'd changed. You'd been replaced. You lose your morality when you go to war. And the hard part is coming back to a civilian society that doesn't have any idea what's going on in your head. It's hard to believe my enemy is the man I used to be.
I bet you wonder, where's my tribe? And I ain't talking about no friendship neither. I'm talking about brotherhood.
What is it that you truly want, Calvin?
I just want to wake up in the morning and feel something.
My pain is relative, son. Sometimes we gotta fall apart to find ourselves all over again.
To give your life for your country. Now maybe you can try living for it.
Hey, it's Lou Pimber. Welcome to Lou Pimber Speaks. Hey, author of the book Breaking Badly, my very own post-traumatic success story. I think we all have a book in us somewhere. Let's just write it. You never know. You might change some lives. Through the reviews of my book have been amazing. I'm very grateful for everybody who goes on Amazon and writes something nice. I appreciate it. It's good to hear nice about yourself when you're still alive, right? So today I have a very special guest. You might recognize him, one of his movies that he just produced and directed and acted in. The movie's called Sheepdog. Sheepdog. By the way, it's one of my, I've been living the life of a sheepdog for many years because I was inspired a long time ago. We might talk about that here as well. But I want to, before I bring him on, I want to do a quick a movie review. Okay. So I'm watching this movie and I kept expecting it to be your typical, uh, I'm a badass. I'm gonna go shoot him up. I'm a bad, and, all that. What you think is a sheepdog, right? But it is that and more because it's from an entirely different perspective, point of view. We'll get into that. So, how do you recommend that? Matter of fact, I didn't just rent it; I bought it on Amazon. I own that thing now, and I'm sharing it with my friends when they come over to watch it. So, without further ado, we have Mr. Steve Grayhm, director, actor, producer, all around creative guy. Welcome, Steven. How you doing today, bud?
Hey, Lou, it's an honor. Thank you so much for having me on, brother.
Man, I first came across the movie. God, I think I was searching the internets of the world, and I saw this sheepdog. I'm like, what? I know the sheepdog. I know the sheepdog himself, Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman, who in the 90s totally opened my heart to becoming a sheepdog, even a protector. I already was, but I knew I had to put my heart someplace, and it was right there in the spirit of the sheepdog, right? So, how did you come up with the name sheepdog first and foremost?
Well, I have to say, I'm also a huge fan of retired Lieutenant Colonel Grossman's literature on combat, on
Yes.
killing, our must reads. They blew me away. I picked up those books over a decade ago. And yeah, there was a passage in On Combat that Mr. Grossman refers to a Vietnam veteran who explains the sheepdog metaphor. And for those that don't know, the metaphor is essentially that law-abiding citizens are sheep, peaceful in their community. Uh, the wolf is somebody who is attracted to violence in that community, and the sheepdog is one that is comfortable with violence, but is a peaceful person that will protect the flock and confront the wolf. And so I felt like, that many people, especially in the military, first responder, law enforcement community, understood what that term meant. And I thought in Sheepdog, in our movie, my character Calvin, who's a military combat veteran, um, that he would have experienced being the sheepdog in his military service. I wanted to take the metaphor a little bit further into his civilian life, where we pick up with him 10 years later, And you realize that the metaphor, that though he lived that in his military service, at home, the flock is his family, his
Yeah.
community, and the wolf is the wolf at his door.
Mm. It's you bring up a very good point because again, initially I see Sheepdog and I see two dudes in the cover. I see you and I see a gentleman. What is the actor's name, by the way?
Bondi Curtis Hall.
I see Vondi Curtis Hall on there, and I was like, Sheepdog, huh? And so I watched it, and I love the perspective of this character is now 10 years post service. So much has probably happened. I can relate leaving service, you know, mainly some military, but mainly my law enforcement service. And you go to a life of just being an everyday person. And it's very difficult to do that because you're no longer that guy. You're no
Mhm.
longer Sergeant so and so, Agent so and so. You're just Lou Pimber, man. You know what I mean? You're just Kelvin. And it's so difficult to deal with that because and I know I did. I had a tough time when I left. I had to leave because I got hurt on the job, man. So I had to medically retire out. I went through some serious issues because I had injuries, I had trauma, I had nightmares, pills, drinking, all sorts of stuff, man. So I could totally relate to a lot of those topics you guys discussed in the movie. What was the inspiration behind the film? Well, how did you come to that point in that movie?
Sure. So, in 2011, my car broke down 3 hours north of Los Angeles, and I called AAA, and they sent out the local tow truck driver. And when he arrived, he was like, "Partner, saddle up. We got a long haul into town." And it
Mm.
was during that drive that he began to open up about his all the things that were going on in his life, the challenges he was facing in his marriage, being the father of three, his financial hardship. And then he began to explain all the various medications that he was on that were tethered to his military service, the traumatic brain injury, post traumatic stress. And it was throughout this 3 hour drive, he kept stopping himself and saying, "Man, I can't believe I'm telling you this. I've never told anybody. I've never told my wife. I've never even spoken to a therapist." We get
Wow.
back to LA. Yeah, we get back to LA, and I thanked him for getting me home safe, and I looked him in the eyes, and I was like, "Brother, if you ever, wanna get together for a beer, just let me know." And I could see in his eyes that he was good, that I think it was like being able to confide in a complete stranger that you would likely never see again, was easier for him to do, and that was my seminal moment, Lou, because I felt like, how could somebody who had served their country honorably, working their butt off, trying to provide for their family, dealing with both mental and physical ailments, be so disconnected from their family, their community, and those they served with. And it was that summer that I embarked on a nationwide road trip to try to uncover that truth. I didn't know it was going to be a screenplay. I just wanted to find out if there was more men and women like this tow truck driver who were suffering in silence. And sure enough, I found out very quickly that there was.
Brother, there's so many. There's so many.
Mhm.
Uh, from various combat deployments, from various wars. The movie Hostile. I don't know if you watched the movie Hostiles or Hostile
Yep.
with Christian Bale. There's
Yep.
a moment that movie was written it takes place a long time ago, but there's a moment in the movie where they allude to what is now known as post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes.
That's when the soldier, he's emotional. He says, I have I have the, gosh, what does he call it? I just had the word a minute ago. He goes, I have the melancholy, he says. They called it melancholy, right? But they didn't really think much of it. Then comes the Vietnam War, then comes all these other wars in modern day stuff. But then comes a guy like Kelvin who he's he's no longer really a soldier. I mean, he's a soldier in his heart, in his
Mhm.
mind, and he sees things differently. I know when I walk around, the average ordinary citizen sees, oh, there's an apartment complex. I see a drug deal that I almost got killed in a house one time. When I see a car get pulled behind me and the one in front of me, I'm like, is this a hit? It makes no sense, but it's just there all the time. So your guy in your movie, uh, you pick him up and he's working a job
Yeah.
he probably hates, and working with his best buddy who you know, in the movie, he talks about how they want to be together, right? They're best friends. They fought together. Um, Tell me about the other character. What's his story?
Yeah, so Daryl Sparks is the character name. It's played by Matt Dallas, who actually did the nationwide road trip with me because it was imperative for me that he see it for himself. And again, this is going back to 2011, and then of course
Wow.
years of research. And so, you know, from Matt, all those stories that were shared with us that eventually went into my screenplay uh, lived within him, you know. And so when he got to set, I thought it was what was really interesting about Matt's performance was I wanted somebody who didn't have to act the essence of smiling through the pain,
Right.
right? Because it takes a lot of strength to do that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, his character, I'm glad that you touched on that of them wanting to be closer to each other. And so
Yeah.
in the movie, you know, his character moves cross country with his family so that they would live in the same community. And Lou, I found that, you know, in my research across the country, there were so many veterans that felt so separated that maybe they had a Facebook group to feel connected to that group. And you know this being in law enforcement, there's a level of intimacy when you're willing to give your life for those to your left and your right that you will
Yeah.
never find in your civilian life. It is something very, very unique and special. Um, and and as a civilian myself, I revere that level of loyalty. And you know, in the film, Vondi Curtis Hall's character, he plays a Vietnam veteran, as you know,
Yeah.
and he talks to my character in one of his darkest hours, and he says, when he sees the thousand-yard stare on his face, I bet you're wondering, where's my tribe? And I'm not talking about friendship. I'm talking about brotherhood, the willingness to give your life for those to your left and your right. Where are you going to find that back here? And so that was really important to touch on because so many men and women that I had interviewed and I lived in their homes, was immersed in the community and their families. They felt that separation. And I think it'd be worth asking you, as somebody who's retired law enforcement, in your transition out, when you talked about all the challenges you faced, did you find that, especially getting medicaled out, like getting injured and like, so you were putting your butt on the line every day, but then having an incident where that happens. How did you
Yeah.
find that separation from those you served with?
Oh, it was difficult, man, because you know, thanks for the question, but it was difficult because I got hurt on the job, and I worked undercover for most of my career, very dangerous stuff, and I get hurt on the job, and in a very interesting situation the way it went down. But then I have a traumatic brain injury, injured mouth, jaw, injured
Yes.
ear, neck, all these things, and then comes everything stops, and then all the that train stops, and all the cargo starts coming forward, right? All
Right.
the hits, the near misses, all these things, nightmares, all this stuff, uh, medication, pain medication, drinking. It's just 4 years spiral for me, right? And then comes that part. Like, who am I now? I felt like like I've been a samurai, like a real badass samurai, you know what I mean? In my mind, right? To You're like, you're now a gardener. And I was like, damn, bro. And I have to garden,
Yeah.
which I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war, right? I think somebody wrote that once.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, but it was hard. It was very difficult. It was very difficult because it was an identity change. I was no longer that guy.
What did you
And
find helped you after seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, getting to that place? What did you find? Was there many things? Was there one thing?
for one, counseling helped big time. For
Yeah.
two, having a reasons to live too, right? Which was my son and daughter. And then, believe it or not, acting was a way out for me, man.
Yeah.
I ended up helping a friend one time. She says, "Hey, I'm working on this movie. The guy's a director from Mexico filming out here, and they need a guy to teach the actors how to do the weapons and stuff." She says, "Weren't you like a cop or something?" I'm like, "Yeah." Or they need a military person. I'm like, "I was in the military." She goes, "But they need him to speak Spanish." I'm like, "Hablo español. Yeah, how can I help you?" So I showed up, man, and when I realized I can be put back in those situations again, the guns, the danger, and be okay afterward, no real adrenaline. It was like fake adrenaline. I felt like, wow, I think I just had therapy right now.
Yeah.
So acting helped me out big time, big time. And reading. Those are the avenues that helped me a lot. I knew I had to work on myself because no matter what I did, I couldn't change what happened, but I can change me. So reading was a big one for me as well.
That that's that's beautiful. I mean, that so much is, again, just bringing it back to the film and Sheepdog, the path to post-traumatic growth. Like, and then this is not me, the civilian, wagging a finger in any sense, but you
Mhm.
committed to doing the work. I'm sure
Yeah.
you went through hell to
Mhm.
get there, but finding gratitude of being a father, the love for your children, and being able to, through therapy, understand that that is something that happened, that is not
Of course.
happening to you, you know? And then this is important to talk about because I found this in so much of my research, feeling useful, right?
Yes.
Going out in your civilian life and feeling utilized, right? Where you just said the weapons training, you could, you know, speak a second language, and be able to work in a group environment with a team that's relying upon you. And then getting a little taste, a little hint, not the same adrenaline,
Right.
and being able to entertain people, right?
Right.
And I hope you got quadruple the pay for all of wearing all those hats.
Yeah.
Stunt
It was,
pay. Uh,
yeah.
yeah.
When I was on, but it also acting also helped me fulfill this little goal that I had for myself when I was a kid. And my teacher says, "What do you want to be?" "I want to be a stunt man." I don't know why, because Eric Estrada does stunts. So I'm a kid, right? And I had it. I still have the little paper. And one day I'm on the show Breaking Bad, and I realized, bro, this is actually a stunt. So I'm having my own little aha moment, and the director's like, Lou, I'm like, sorry, bro. Sorry, I was having my moment. The camera's right up here, and I just realized this is considered a stunt. I'm just fulfilling a dream of mine, you know? And so, yeah, acting's been very helpful, man. It's been very helpful.
I'm so fascinated because I have to say, I was late to the game on Breaking Bad, and as I'm guessing that's a tie-in to the title of your book.
Yeah.
Um, and I know I'm on your podcast to talk about Sheepdog, but this stuff is fascinating for me to be able to speak to somebody. What was your experience like? Because I remember reading for the pilot and
Yeah.
think like I read it more. I remember that the notes we were getting from casting was they wanted Jesse to be played like Eminem, like a version of that,
Mm.
right? He was perfectly cast.
Yeah.
Um, but what was your experience like? I mean, I was blown away by that series, and
Yeah.
I mean, you must know, like, to get to say the words and the dialogue and the script, and
Yeah.
what was that experience? Did you know when you were doing it how special it was?
You know, I came on in season 4, okay?
Yeah.
And when I first got out of law enforcement, I was all messed up and I'm trying to figure out my life. I do a film student says, "Hey man, you should do a movie." I'm like, "Yeah, sounds great." And so we did some short films and they put it into two stories into one. I'm like, it won us some film festivals. But in my mind, I was like, this can totally be a series and it'll play after Breaking Bad. And I was low key kind of hating, just so you know, like this is gonna be better than that, in my
Yeah.
in my baby mind as a film person, actor, right? But check it out, man. I wrote it with that intention in mind, and then one day I get a call from my agent to go read, and I train with my coach and everything, and I get there. LA casting wants this other guy, but New Mexico casting wants you. Who wins? LA casting. So the other guy gets the main part and I get his buddy part, right? Bad guys. I'm always a bad guy for some reason. Anyway, so I'm grateful for it. I'm so grateful for it. But when I get there, I meet Bryan Cranston. You know, I'm like, wow, this is Bryan Cranston. But he was just a working dude. He's one of the producers. He was there to work. You know what I mean? Aaron Paul, he was there to work. He drove in that day and he was there to work. The budget wasn't very big for the show. So everything was very like tight. Everything was tight. There was no wasting time. Nobody was there to showboat. Not even Giancarlo Esposito. No showboating. It was, we're here to work. And I can appreciate that. I can appreciate it. But I'm very grateful, very honored to even be synonymous with that, be known with that. My book is breaking badly because I was messed up badly, and for a while there, and that was the inspiration behind the name. But back to Sheepdog, what I liked was that it isn't the sheep. People think of Sheepdog, they think a man in uniform or wearing body armor, helmet, goggles, night vision, rifle, and he's out being a protector, right? But in fact, it's the broken down, beat up sheepdog who's lost probably 20 pounds, who's depressed, who's wants to kill himself every other day, and he just feels like a total nobody. It's that dog that was once an amazing dog, and he's walking down the street, emaciated and hungry, trying to figure out where he's gonna get his next meal. That's the sheepdog you guys protect, and it was incredible because people don't expect that.
I appreciate you saying that because years ago on YouTube, I found this old black and white video from overseas, and it was an actual sheepdog. It looks like it's clearly shot on film,
Uh-huh.
and it's archival. And long story short, it's a sheepdog actually literally protecting the sheep from a wolf. And there's like
Yeah.
3 wolves. Anyway, the sheepdog gets into it, and it looks like in the beginning when you watch it, it's a hard watch. So I'm not telling anyone to go YouTube this because it's not for the faint of heart, but it defends the sheep. It's got scars, it's got all the battle wounds, right? It looks like it could be a family dog, make no mistake. And the wolves all look vicious. It kicks the butt out of 2 of the 3 wolves. The third one gets scared. I think it runs off, saves the sheep, right? It sits back down in the snow and it's panting and it looks around and it just lets out this exhale. And you just see the years of combat, loyalty, purpose. He's got a job to do. And I took that image and I put that on my wall above my desk,
Wow.
and put it in one of my journals everywhere I went to remind myself, because we talk about it, there's no vanity in it, right?
Right. None.
It's his ethos of like what it is that folks like yourself were committed to doing in their lives,
Yeah.
right? Both military and law enforcement. And, I've said this before, but it's important to say it again that in my research, man, like, especially as a civilian, I truly marveled at that because it's such a selfless act. It's such
Yeah.
a selfless act. And I wanted it to be portrayed in our film, not like G.I. Joe, not like, oh, he's this hero or he thinks of himself a certain way. Because my character never feels sorry for himself. He's
Right.
just fighting every day to get through it. And there's a line in the film where he says to his therapist towards the end that he realizes, he comes to terms with the only way out is through.
Uh-huh.
And accepting that, when Whitney's character, Vadi Curtis Hall, says, sometimes we have to fall apart to find ourselves all over again. And I love your story because that's exactly what you did, right? When you
Yeah.
came out, all the challenges you had, and you rediscovered yourself and went into it in completely an entirely different line of
Oh,
work, and were able to utilize the skills that you had just in a different way, you know,
right.
which
Right.
is inspiring. And I hope people listening and watching, um, are willing to explore that in their own lives.
Not many people will, man, because of ego or sometimes lack of counseling or lack of access, or sometimes just not willing to step outside their comfort zone. Back to that sheepdog you were describing, the dog. In the end, that dog is there probably by himself.
Yes.
Maybe one of the sheep might come by and sniff him and say, "Are you okay?" And then
Yes.
leave because they see, like Grossman says, he's got fangs like a wolf. He knows violence. And so they're afraid of him a little bit, but they
Yes.
respect him. And at the core, the people love the sheepdog. They love the protector. And sometimes they love to hate him because he's got to do the things that nobody else wants to. I tell people when I speak to cops, you have two things to go by in this job. People will be nice to you until the moment they want to kill you. And you have to be ready to go get them sometimes. And number two, I tell them, act nice so you can fit in, but think mean. And that when a
Wow.
sheepdog has to live like that for years and years and years and years and years, no matter how disciplined you are, no matter what kind of shape you're in, conditioning, it's gonna wear on you because you can only carry that hypervigilance for so long before it just like, boy, you need to chill out a little bit. So acting for me forced me to uh, hang out with people I probably wouldn't hang out with. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
It forced me to see things from a different point of view. I learned a lot of respect for the actor, a lot of respect for the filmmaker, a lot of respect for the director, the writers. I worked with a lot of film students in Arizona at the film school. Much respect to you guys because there's work, a lot of rejection, a lot of nothing sometimes. But that's just the way it is in the life of a sheepdog, man. Here's what I also like about the movie, man. It was primarily all shot on locations.
Mhm.
And I love when a movie takes place in what is perceived to be middle America, you know, because it's like it's gritty, it's inside the bar, it's the old truck, you know. It,
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's very working class,
yes.
Western Massachusetts. It's you know, it reflected many of the small towns I went into that like it
Mhm.
so where our film takes place, Western Massachusetts, my character is working at a paper mill on the last day that it closes. And that paper mill in real life did close.
Wow.
You know, in the advent of technology with emails, they're printing less paper, um, you know, Kindles and stuff like that. And so, but the town feels the impact of that because that's the main source of income for so many people. And
Yeah.
that's why there's a line in the movie, you know, the man took away the factory, but he didn't take the people with him.
Mm.
And 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 what I also wanted to show in the film that I saw so much in my research going across the country was how a community has to come together. That in my character's journey, you can't do it alone and you don't have to do it alone. And in a lot of these smaller towns, most people know each other, you know, and it's trying to inspire folks to access the benefits or the care that is available to them, which you clearly did in your own journey
Yep.
with therapy. And it's worth mentioning that, you know, with our veteran suicide epidemic, I believe it's 60 to 70% of those that take their life every day have not accessed their VA benefits.
Mm.
And not as we can agree, not every veteran has obviously been deployed, been in combat, or even has trauma. But those benefits is also sort of a portal or a gateway to a community. And I feel like that's a big part of it. That's a
For
very
sure.
big part of that connective tissue that I feel is really important.
You're absolutely right. A lot of them don't, for a number of reasons, you know. Um, but I want to go back to the dynamic between Kelvin and what's the other character's name?
Daryl
Daryl. Kelvin,
or
Daryl.
Whitney, yeah,
Paul. Yeah. So one is a modern day veteran warrior, and the other one's a post Vietnam warrior or Vietnam era warrior. And you got to watch the movie to understand why, how it is they met, right? But you got to see that it's interesting. But I think it was important that you got to honor the Vietnam veteran who, because of what was going on in the 60s and 70s, a lot of them felt ashamed for their service, right? So very different times today. And so you got to I like that you honored that, by the way.
yeah. I appreciate you saying that. You know that Whitney is the Vietnam veteran character played by Vondi Curtis Hall. You know that character was based on all of the experiences I had for years doing honor flight out of Austin, Texas, where you take
Mm.
Vietnam veterans and World War II veterans to the respective memorials in DC. And so, you know, you have a very sobering day going to the wall in DC. And then that night, if you're fortunate enough to be invited down to the hotel lobby bar for a whiskey, that's where all those stories come out.
Yeah,
And over the years doing it, I mean, almost none of the dialogue in the film for Whitney I invented. I mean, that came, especially when he has that speech on my character's front lawn.
Yeah.
Those words were spoken to me many times by various Vietnam veterans. So you can imagine how humbling and rewarding it is over the last couple years being on the film festival circuit and then it coming out in theaters and then, on streaming to hear Vietnam veterans across the country say you nailed it or they finally feel seen or heard after 50, 60 years. It was so important to me to show that because their sacrifice, um, I think oftentimes is overlooked. And
Yep.
Vondi Curtis Hall in real life, as in his civilian life, he never served, but he grew up in Detroit through the Vietnam era. He had many friends that were drafted, friends that enlisted, friends that didn't come home, friends that did come home with post-traumatic stress. He has friends right now that are battling cancer from the effects of being exposed to Agent Orange.
Mm.
So he came to set and he knew how high the stakes were, right? He knew um, the responsibility he had and that we had as a collective in our storytelling, how great that responsibility was.
Yeah. The story of the American soldier, American warrior, is although few people serve, but those few people, uh, we have and they have made quite a difference worldwide. I mean, I go to Italy and I go places and there's a memorial there for American soldiers. There's
Yeah.
and Sicily memorial there
Yep.
for American soldiers. I go to different places, and we have a lot to be proud of and thankful for sure.
Yeah. I mean, again, if I could say it again, you know, one of the major impacts on my own life over the years of the research I did was being around folks that had been tested to the highest limit, especially in a combat zone, and then being back home, knowing their stories, and then going to being in a social setting, say at a bar, just having a beer, and you get somebody who wants to take a photo with me because they've recognized me for something, and I'm looking at the veteran that I'm with, and I'm like, I'm chopped liver. If you knew this guy's story, this is a real living hero. And I don't
Yeah, yeah,
say that lightly. I'm talking about being, you know, in a high stress situation where, your mission is a village sweep at 3 o'clock in the morning with night vision goggles, jumping over cinder block walls, not knowing what's on the other side. Your comm's not working. So, you're blind in the air and knowing likely not everybody's coming back to the fob, you know,
right.
and and I to this day I marvel at that, and then having to come home and rediscover yourself or reinvent yourself, and and trying to find your way through that, and that's why I advocate, for programs that can connect veterans with each other. I've been a part of veteran service organizations that I've helped form, um, and I think that one aspect. There's many things that go into mental wellness, but I think that that's a huge part, you know,
For
and
sure.
finding each other.
The it's so what happens to a person like your guy Kelvin, he's walking around. Oh, bro, I can't. I don't want to give away the movie, but that moment when he makes a mistake, he does something he shouldn't do, but it was because of a certain sound. He equated it to a traumatic event in his life, and that's what post traumatic stress is. It's
Yeah.
it isn't because you're constantly having these visions. It's certain sounds, certain stares, certain conversations. At least in my case, again, when I left law enforcement, undercover police work, I was like, I'm gonna be fine. But I was going through a lot of counseling. And I was like, yeah, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. All of a sudden, I'm like, that was sort of weird. Or you get caught, you get lost in introspective thinking, and you're thinking inside, and you're sitting there, and your wife is like, I was just talking to you. What happened? Oh, I'm sorry. Or you're going, you pick up your kid at school, and in the mind of this sheepdog is, bro, I mean, if the guy comes in here with a gun, how am I going to deal with this guy? Where's the exit at? I'm gonna probably have to get shoot it up close, because if I shoot from far away, I don't wanna miss and there's kids. It's got to be a contact shot. Crazy stuff, bro, that
Yeah.
goes through our
Yeah.
minds all of the time, man. And so that is, a form of post-traumatic stress. And that's the stuff that your guy, you can see the props to you, you were the actor playing that part. You can see how he's just kinda carrying this burden, if you will, right? And then your buddy, what's the other character's name?
Daryl.
Daryl,
Yeah.
by played by Mr. Dallas, um, just just carrying that, man, and 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 he goes with his own trauma, and then because we kind of fall apart, bro, there's the wives and then there's kids, and
Yeah.
you do a good job in that movie, Sheepdog, showing that. What was the development behind that?
Well, one of the things like in my research was rarely was I ever sat at a desk interviewing somebody. I was immersed in their lives. I was able to build trust to eventually just become a fly on the wall. So you're able to take in the entire family dynamic, military spouses, or in our first responders, their families, and you get to see the ripple effect of the children, right? Whether that's Gold Star family members, like how that the loss of their child in combat in their service, um or the effects of post-traumatic stress on the family. And in our story in Sheepdog, there's this beautiful speech that Lily Cooper
Yeah,
delivers, that, and I cannot tell you how many times in private I had been shared those sentiments. Um, and it was really heartbreaking for me. It was just as heartbreaking on the day of filming it to hear those words spoken to me. All the make believe kind of went out the window, and it really affected me because her conviction and what she's saying was just so stunning. But yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time with military spouses, and what they go through, men and women,
yeah.
and what they go through as being sort of the pillar or the rock for the family, or the glue trying to hold it together, and being the strength, and what that takes, and of course the children. Um, you can attest to that. You have children, of what it takes, to keep your family together as
Yeah.
you're going through these challenges that you're trying to overcome.
The scene with the wife, by the way, props to the actress, her name's Lily.
Lily Cooper, yeah,
Lily
yeah,
Cooper,
Broadway,
props to you.
yeah, off Broadway, yeah, it's
She
amazing.
did a great job. I wanna talk about the scene, but I don't wanna give away the movie. You guys gotta watch it. It's just the look on your face, man, when she says these things to you, you just it's like, how much more defeated can I be right now? You know, you've experienced familiar, family loss, you've experienced military loss, and now these things are being said by your wife in front of other people, by the way. It's gotta watch that, man. You gotta watch those moments, and by the way, before I forget, man, can you go down the list of all the recognition your film has gotten, the different, festivals and everything?
Yeah, we were really fortunate. We were on the film festival circuit for about a year. I really wanted to take the film into different markets across the country, obviously different communities, the veteran community, mental health community, law enforcement, first responder, all the social workers, Gold Star family members. And we were really fortunate. We won 15 awards,
Wow.
uh, several major, jury awards, best screenplay, best actor, best actress. And it was very humbling because I've always felt that those awards are not ours. They're really representative as an acknowledgement to the folks who trusted us that we depict on screen, because we could never have done it to that level of authenticity without them opening up their homes and their hearts to us. But yeah, it was just a profound experience. I just came a couple weeks ago. I just came back from the Pathways to Excellence convention in Las Vegas, which is
Yeah.
for law enforcement and social workers. And we screened Sheepdog twice there. and I'm standing at the front of the room, and it's a very emotional experience, especially in a communal experience. And you're looking at all the teary eyes, and it just, it's just, it takes my breath away. And then to have law enforcement come up to me and tell me, like retired law enforcement, even how much the film meant to them, it's greater than any award because we were just all we were trying to do was get it right for the folks that we depict on screen.
Yeah.
That was the number one goal, right?
You guys
To
did it.
hopefully, well, I appreciate you saying that. I mean, we wanted to make something that was honest and authentic. And if you do that, and that's our only agenda, you hope to God that maybe it becomes evergreen and it's something that folks can see themselves in, whether they're a social worker or civilian, veteran of all generations and walks, but also potentially somebody who's experienced trauma in their life and feels like they're suffering in silence. Lou, I get hundreds of messages every week from people that have seen the film. And of course, it's gratifying, but it's so humbling um, because that's all I wanted with the film. I just
Uh-huh.
wanted to help people. I wanted to heal people. Of course, entertain you for the 2 hours, a gift of your time you've given us to see the film. But I wanted to inspire folks that were um, that were facing many of the challenges that we've talked about on this podcast, challenges you face in your own life, to inspire them
Yeah.
to embark on a path of post-traumatic growth and also uh, to be more aware of those folks in their community. It's like walk a mile in somebody else's shoes.
For
And
sure, man.
I feel
Y
like we need to do a better job of that
you
in
know,
our
you do
community.
the film does a great job, by the way, of not just depicting the main character's cross that he carries, but everybody in that movie was carrying some kind of cross. From Miss Madsen, the actress who plays the counselor,
Yeah.
so much character development went into that. Like, you saw there was layers to her. There was obviously layers to your guy, layers to your spouse, layers to your buddy, layers to his wife, layers to those kids, layers to those who played your kids. There was That's what makes an excellent movie when you don't say everything about that character, but we know because
Yeah.
we see it. You know what I'm
Well, isn't
saying?
it interesting because oftentimes it's the things we don't say.
Yeah.
I've had mental health professionals that have attended premieres and screenings and so on, and they say to me, "Wow, your nonverbal cues, your the moments of silence are sometimes deafening."
Yeah.
And that's why it was important to me that if we were going to show trauma and we were going to show post traumatic stress, I thought that it was important to hold the mirror up to what I witnessed.
Yeah.
Some of the folks that I had the good fortune to sit in front of, I guess it's just never what you think it is. And I had thought that there hadn't been a film that I had seen that quite got it right in terms of depicting what my research showed me. Right. I found that a lot of the folks that were in the most high stress situations, whether that's in combat, jumping out of helicopters, or law enforcement, whatever that was, it was rarely what I had seen in films. And that was also part of the fascinating part of it. I was like, okay, well, I'm able to make this film entirely outside of the Hollywood studio system. The notes that I'm getting for script notes are actually from veterans, from law enforcement, from mental health professionals. It's all based on research, practical research being in that world. Um, let's give this a shot. It's risky, but let's
Yeah.
give people the honest to God's raw truth of what it is. And I think that's a testament to why it's resonating with people.
Well, guys, let me tell you, you guys did a great job. Your production, your actors. Props to every single one of those actors. I love the guy, the sergeant, who was your old coach. Everyone had layers to their story, man. And props to all those guys who were in your movie, man. From the background actors to the guys who showed up to those family gathering moments, all those things. If you haven't seen the movie, you gotta watch the movie, man. But I gotta end on this note right here. Every time I look at you, bro, I keep getting Matt Damon vibes, bro. What's up?
Yeah, I remember. So there's a Larry King clip at the end of the film in the end credits that's from 2013, and I remember on the commercial break, he turned to me and he's like, "Hey, anyone ever tell you you look like Matt Damon?" And I always laugh. It's so funny. Yeah, man. He's had a great career. He's had some of the, some of my most favorite films that he's been in between Private Ryan and obviously
Yeah.
Good Will Hunting, Talented Mr. Ripley, Rounders. I mean, he's the Bourne films had a good run. Yeah, but here and there, I get that. That's why there's actually a line in the film. If you listen closely, I'm in the bar and the bar townie says when I do my scratchy and I win money, and he's like, "There you go, another round on Target brand Matt Damon." And I
Yes.
put that line in the film because a film critic years ago referred to me as the Target brand Matt Damon. And I remember saying that to my wife, and I was like, "What the heck? The Target brand Matt Damon?" She's like, "That's great. What?" And I was like, "He didn't say the Louis Vuitton Matt Damon. He said the Target brand Matt Damon, right?"
Hey,
And I was dying laughing, and I thought it was worth putting in the film because,
that's great. Hey,
you gotta have a sense of humor about
I've been called Timu Mario Lopez. I'm like, hey, I'll take it. I'll take it.
it.
I'll
I've
take
been
it.
called Timu, Leo DiCaprio, Timu, and I had to look up what the heck Timu was, and I told one of our production assistants, I told her, I said, "Yeah, I just got called in some online post to Timu Matt Damon. I went, what the heck is that?" And he was in tears laughing, and she's like, "That's where they sell like knockoff stuff or whatever."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh my God, it's fantastic."
Well, listen, if you love today's conversation with none other than Mr. Steven Grayhm, make sure you follow Steven. Make sure you rent the movie. Heck, buy the movie, share it with your friends, subscribe, like, share this conversation. If you know anyone out there who's got an incredible story that needs to be heard, send them my way. Let her talk to them. Follow me on the Instagrams of the world, the TikToks or whatever they're called. Follow me there too. I want to thank you. And Steven, I want to thank you, man. I want to thank you. Heck of a job. Sheepdog.com is the website. Is that correct?
Sheepdogthemovie.com. Yeah, Sheepdog the Movie.
Sheepdogthemovie.com. Follow that. Check it out. And go watch it. Share it with your buddies, man. Share it with your buddies. Steven, I want to thank you, bro. Thank you for your time. Thank you for making this movie. You're reaching a lot of people. You touch people's hearts. Keep up the good work, brother. And until then, we'll talk very soon, brother. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you so much. Hasta la vista, my friends. Ciao.